Hello, friend Mormo here. Today I'm reviewing the book Mormonism Unmasked, uh, confronting the contradictions between Mormon beliefs and true Christianity. And I got about three-fourths of the way through the book, and it really shows there's just too much evidence that Mormonism is actually an evil cult and not Christian at all. So I just read and then read enough. Didn't need any more evidence after that. And the first chapter talks about like how people get hooked into Mormonism. I guess a while ago it was the real growing religion, and they were running infomercials on TV, and people would be watching TV and it would say, "Get a free Bible, just call this number." And then the next thing you know, two young kids show up at your door and they come in and give you your free Bible and start preaching to you. And they tell all kinds of lies, like about how Mormons have good family values, which I know from my own experience isn't true. And they'll tell you that they can baptize the dead and save the dead through rituals and stuff, which isn't in the Bible at all. And I consider necromancy, which God actually frowns on, and they say, oh, it's so great. And the Book of Mormon just tells you even more about the life of Christ and all this. But the Mormon Christ and the true Christian Christ are two very different things. And then it goes in to talk about how Mormonism started with this guy, Joseph Smith, who was an occultist before he was a cult leader. He did like divination and treasure hunting with occult methods and stuff. He found these two magic rocks in his neighbor's well, and he would supposedly use the rocks to find treasure and shit. And but he never did, and people would hire him to find treasure, and he never could. But and they actually sued him over it, and that was an ongoing theme throughout his life. He was basically always on the run from the police or from angry mobs or from lawyers trying to sue him because he was such a criminal scumbag his whole life. And he also practiced adultery and had like over 34 wives. He actually preached that you could become a god by raping virgins and uh, having so many kids from so many different women that you could become a god. He was an adulterer and had multiple wives. And all throughout his life, his story changed. Like he told stories about being visited by God and Jesus and angels and all this, but his story changed constantly from what age he was when he saw these visions and what they said and what happened. His whole career, his story was just changing the whole time, and what the doctrines of the church were just changing year to year throughout the church, always changing story. And Mormons were, like I say, were constantly on the run. Joseph Smith and the first Mormons, because everybody hated them because they were such scumbags, angry mobs would come to fight him and kill him. And he'd have to run away, and he would just leave his wives and children behind and go hide from the police and from angry mobs and from uh, like lawyers and stuff. And the Mormon Church teaches that there's multiple gods, that which goes against Christianity, which teaches that there's only one true God. Mormons believe that the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, are actually three different gods, and that there's a infinite amount of gods in the universe. And they actually teach that God was a man himself on a different world at one time, who ascended and then became God of our world. He taught that God was flesh and bone at one time, and then he became a god. And he also, Mormonism teaches that humans can become gods themselves, which of course goes against Christianity and everything that Christianity teaches. And he taught that God is in a physical body and that God is married, and that he teaches that God and his wife create all of the souls on earth, and that but that it's wrong to pray to God's wife, he teaches. And they Mormons refer to Jesus Christ as their elder brother because they think they're all related and like the same as Jesus, because they were all born from God. And they teach that God like physically fucked the Virgin Mary. He came down to earth as a physical person and got aroused and physically fucked the Virgin Mary, and that's how she got pregnant. And rather than the Christian teaching that um, that the Virgin Mary was impregnated by the Holy Spirit. And there's just tons of stuff, tons of facts, and discrepancies in the Mormon religion about why it's not Christian at all. And I've based on my own experience, I think that Mormons are evil and scumbags, and like you can't trust them, and they're liars, and they'll be nice to you until you're vulnerable, then they'll just fuck you over. And I think they're terrible people. I think it's a terrible religion, an evil cult, and I strongly recommend you pick up the book Mormonism Unmasked if you're curious about the Mormon religion and want to know if it's true Christianity or not. And it's not, it's a cult. And thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and check out the links in the description. Thanks so much.